So, I wasn't making a big deal about G and H if you got them wrong, because some of you did not have the whole gallon thing. I wrote it on the board at the very end of the lesson. I told my homeroom 3 times this morning to write it down, and then of course some of them still did not do it. I highly recommend before the end of the day you write this down. And I know that I already told you once, and now I've told you twice to have this written down. And it would be really good that if you know where your conversion sheet is, to have it written down on your conversion sheet so that all of that stuff is together. Alton, you are not going through your binder on my time. Put all of that up right now. I mean now, as in right now. Immediately. Right now. The only thing you should have out, like a couple people, is your homework. Because that's all I'm going over right now is your homework. That's the only thing that should be out. So if you have 1 pint and you're going to quarts, you're going from a small unit to a big unit, which means you're dividing. When you're dividing, your unit should be written as a fraction. Because a fraction is dividing. So I have 1 pint. One times 1 pint. 1 pint. So how many pints? If I have a quart, how many quarts make up 1 pint? 2 pints make up 1 quart. So here's a pint, here's a pint. So if I only have 1 pint, you weren't wrong, Jamarco. If I have only 1 pint, it would be 1/2 in relation to a quart. So 1/2 of a quart is equal to 1 pint. 1 times 1/2 of a quart is 1/2. So on G, you should have 1/2. If I have 4 pints, 4 times 1 pint. So again, I'm going to quarts again. I'm going from a small unit to a big unit, which means I divide. So I should have a fraction. 4 times, I'm going to a quart. 1 pint in relation to a quart. It should be, I only have 1 pint. Don't give me the answer to the whole question. I only want the answer to the question I asked. 1 pint to a quart is 1/2. 4 times 1 over 2. 4 over 2 equals 2. So you can even check that with your big G. 1 gallon is made up of 4 quarts. Each quart is made up of 2 pints. So if I have 4 pints, 1, 2, 3, 4. How many quarts is that?
4.
2. 1, 2 cubes. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pints. I get 1 cube, 2 cubes, 2 cubes, 2 quarts. I checked it with my conversion G. Right there. Yes, sir. I can. Yep, you're right. But I still like to do the math if it's not too big. Okay, and then the other problem where first period anyway, they were saying that there was some confusion was number 3. It says Sarah and her dad visit Yo-Yo Yogurt again. This time the scale says that Sarah has 14 ounces of vanilla yogurt in her cup. Her father's yogurt weighs half as much. How many pounds of frozen yogurt did they buy altogether on this visit? Express your answer as a mixed number. So if Sarah has 14 ounces and her dad has half as much, 14 divided by 2 is 7 ounces. So it says, how many pounds of frozen yogurt did they buy all together? What did we decide yesterday was the easiest thing to do? Yeah. Find their sum in ounces first and then do the conversion. So 14 plus 7 was 21 ounces. Then we need to take 21 ounces and turn it into pounds. So 21 ounces, we need to find out how many pounds that is. So 21 times 1. Forgot what I was doing. Oh gosh, ounces. I kind of had a moment there. So 21. So if I'm going from if I'm going from 1 ounce and I've got to go to a pound. If I only have 1 ounce, I'm going from small to big. Is it 16 pounds is equal to 1 ounce?
Oh no.
So can I put 16 right here?
And 16 ounces equals 1 pound.
16 ounces equals 1 pound. So if you put 16 here, 1 over 16, 1/16. I only have 1 ounce. 1/16. So it's 21 over 16. So 16 divided into 16 into 21. 16 goes into 21. 16 goes into 21. 1 time. 1 times 16 is 16 with 5 left over. So you get 1 and 5/16 of a pound.
Wait, what? I got that. I did. Since you can't subtract 1 from 6, I borrowed and I made it 4. And that makes
11 minus 6 is 5.
No, what though? I made it.
I don't know what you did. You're goofy. You went goofy. You did something bizarre. Huh? Someone had asked me yesterday if when you are doing unit so the question was asked, can you do a unit conversion or measurement conversion where you have a mixed fraction? because everything that we've been doing is like a third of a foot or a half of a pound or 2/3 of a yard. And the answer is yes, you can have 5.5 feet. 10 2/3 pounds. Can't you buy 2.5 pounds of chicken? Yes. Everything is not just a basic, easy, small fraction. And we're going to do that today, and it's really not hard at all. I'm going to show you the easiest way possible to do it, but you really have to pay attention to it. If you just sit and play with your pencil and have your head down and do whatever, well, you're not going to get it. So you are going to have to pay attention to whether or not you're going from a big to small or small to big. Not everything is going to be fraction to fraction. Now, you are going to have to pay attention to whether or not you're multiplying or dividing. If you're dividing, then you go by a fraction. If you're multiplying, then you're just going by the regular big number. So we're going to practice that today. Now, I have been using that little trick that Jeremy, and I thank you, because, sometimes, I've been teaching for a while, but every once in a while, someone comes and goes, hey, I learned this little trick. And I go, oh, that's awesome. And I will probably use that forever, because it helps me go, oh, yes, because I still get them switched up. And then I go, oh, yeah, big to small, multiply. Small to big, divide. And I've been using it every time. I'll just sit there and go. And I'll sit there and do it. Yeah. So if you learn a little trick, use it. There's nothing wrong. I feel like a Power Ranger. I'm like, or a Wonder Woman. Whatever you use to help you, by golly, use it, right? Okay. So the first problem that we're going to practice right now is, say that we have a recipe. You don't have to copy all of this down, but a recipe calls 3/4 of a pound of cream cheese. But when you go to the grocery store, does the cream cheese that you put on a bagel is used to make cheesecake or whatever, it doesn't come in pound or it doesn't say 3/4 of a pound. When you go, the container, it comes in 8 or 12, normally comes in 8 ounce. But it says, at the store, it says 12 ounce or 16. So this is what it says in the grocery store. So what they want to know, if I go to the store and I buy this, is it enough? So how can you find out if you buy this, is it enough for this recipe? Are you good enough now to be able to figure it out? To know whether or not 3/4 of a pound of cream cheese in the recipe is a 12 ounce tub of cream cheese enough? And you don't even have to say probably. What can you do to figure it out?
You could divide it.
By what?
4. 160. 44.
So, if the recipe calls for 3/4 of a pound, and we want to know, what are we trying to figure out? How many ounces is that?
Yes.
That's what we need to know. We need to know, is this enough? So we're gonna go on, is this enough for my recipe? I don't know.
It's not.
So, because we don't want to guess. I don't want to buy more than I need because I'm just a teacher. I'm poor. So, 3/4 of a pound. So, 3/4 times 1 pound.
16 ounces.
So, if I'm going from 1 pound, 2 ounces, I'm going from big
Small.
to small
Ooh, you multiplied 3
by
16.
1/63.
So, if I'm, think about, I've got the pound up here. It's made up by 16 ounces. I'm starting with what's on top. So, am I doing a fraction or a whole number down here?
A whole number.
A whole number. I'm not doing a piece. I'm doing the whole shebang. I'm doing the whole thing. So it's 16 total ounces.
Oh.
Oh, because when you multiply, it's the whole thing. When you divide is when you're doing a fraction. Yeah. Right. Because there's 3 different ways you can do this.
I got it. Oh, so you can. So you does have to know. Oh, 1/16. 4 times.
It can.
And 4 times 3 is 12.
Thought you were telling me it wasn't enough. You know why you were telling me it wasn't enough?
Because I did it in my head.
Because you tried to do it in your head.
Oh, let's see.
Yes, ma'am.
I did it in my head, but you know, but in my head, I just divided. I did 4 divided by 4, and then that was the 1. I did 4 divided by 16, and equal 4, and then I multiplied it by 3.
Right, and so you did it the other way. And see, that's the other one where they did the 12 ounces going to pounds.
Yeah, and then 16 ounces make a pound.
Right. So if you're doing 12 times 1 ounce, and I'm going from small to big, you divide. So when I'm going from small to big, and you're having to divide, what goes here?
It's 1/16.
1/16, because I'm dividing. Because I've got 1 ounce. 12 16.
Four. You can get 3 and 4.
Still enough.
Oh, it's
12 ounces is 3/4 of a pound. Either way, you still get the same thing.
Oh, it's an
No. Yes.
You have to be like a fraction and multiply it. Where did you get the thing?
Would that be what I just did?
No.
You did 3/4 times 1/16?
Yes.
But that's not, no.
That's not what it is. I'm saying if you were to do like 12 ounces is the answer and 3 times 4 is what?
That's not what you're doing. No. Because then you're taking 3/4 of 12. Okay. So let's try another.
Okay.
So we need, our main thing is we need to start identifying When are we going big to small and small to big? And how do we do it when we have a mixed fraction? So here we have 4 1/3 of a yard equals how many feet? Now can we do 4 yards? 4 yards equals how many feet?
33.
If you have 1 yard, how many feet is that? 3 feet. So 4 yards is how many feet? 12. So if I have 4 yards is how many feet? 12 feet. Because 4 times 3 is 12. So the only difference with this is that there's a little fraction on the end of it. You know, the desks really shouldn't be moving anywhere. So now that the only difference with this is that it's a mixed fraction. That's the only difference between this and that. It's the only difference because it's 4 1/3. 4 yards you can do that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
The only difference is we added in 1/3. It's the only difference. So, I'm going to show you, DeMarco, I'm going to show you what to do when there's a fraction on there. And it's, don't freak out on me. It's not as hard as you think it is. We haven't done it yet. And then you're going to look at it and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I thought it was hard. So, where the steps are the same. The steps are the same. I want you to say that in your head. The steps are the same. Say it again.
Steps are the same.
Steps are the same. So it's 4 1/3 times 1 yard. Did my steps change? No. I just added that 1/3. So I'm going from 1 yard to feet. I'm going from big to small, which means I multiply. How many feet are in 1 yard?
3.
3. Okay. So it's 4 1/3 times 3. So how do we multiply a mixed? See, this seems like something that we did on a previous test. How do we multiply a mixed fraction by a whole number? How do we do that? Roger, what do we do?
You multiply the 4 and 1, but not the bottom number.
So I multiply the 3 times the 4 and the 3 times the 1. Do I multiply the 3 times the 3? No. I just leave it alone. Because it's the same thing as repeated addition. So 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 1 is 3. And then bring that down.
Wait, no, that's a whole number. So like 13.
I know. So this 3/3 is 1. So it's 13 feet. Because we know that 4 yards is equal to 12 feet. 1/3 of a yard is 1 foot. If this is a yard, it's made up of 3 feet. 1/3 of a yard. This is a foot, this is a foot, this is a foot. 1/3 of a yard is 1 foot. Three and 1/2 of a gallon equals some quarts. Am I going big to small or small to big?
Small. Big.
Gallon to quart. Big to small because a gallon is made up of quarts. So 3 and 1/2 times 1 gallon. 3 and 1/2. How many quarts make a gallon?
4. It's right there.
4 quarts. Yes, ma'am. So 4 times 3 is 12. Nope. 4 times 1 is 4 over 2.
Equals 14.
Yeah, not 13. So I have 12. 4 over 2 is 2.
Yeah, 2, yeah.
So you get 14 quarts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Man,
Why is it in? Why do you make it a 2?
because you've got 4 over 2 and that's improper and you don't leave fractions improper.
I know, but how do you get 2?
Right. That's magical.
I wrote a 2 on accident.
And then 2 plus
2 goes into 4 2 times. You broke it? I didn't make sure I call 911. One and 2/5 of an hour equals some minutes. Alright. So what if I have 11 feet and I'm going to yards? If I have feet to yards, what do I do? So
You have to see how many feet can go into one.
feet to yards. You divide. So you go by a fraction. So 11 times 1 foot. So the foot, 1 foot becomes feet in yards. 1/3 of a yard. It takes 3 feet
To make 1
to
yard.
make 1 yard. It's not 11 and 1/3. It's 11 thirds. Because if you were adding, it would be 11 and 1/3, but it's 11 thirds. So can I leave it like this?
That's the back.
You have to divide.
It goes in three times.
It goes in 3 times. 3 times 3.
9.
With the 2. So it's 3 and 2/3 of a yard. Okay. Now to the part that gets a little bit tricky. It's not that there's just an extra step. So 5, no, it's just one extra step. So 5.5 feet equals a yard. So we already know that we're going from a small unit to a big unit. So when we're going from a small to a big, we have to divide. So if I have 5 1/2 times 1 foot, and I need to go from 1 foot, I'm trying to get to a yard, but all I have is 1 foot. It's 1/3 of a yard. Now, I can't multiply this like it is. I can't multiply a mixed fraction by a fraction. That's the new thing. That's the new thing. So, what you're going to have to do, and there, in case you forget, there's an anchor chart for it. I have to turn 5 1/2 into an improper fraction so that I can multiply it. To go from here to an improper. Because to make an improper to a mixed, you have to divide and subtract. You have to do the opposite. Multiply, add. So this is 2 times 5 is 10 plus 1. Plus 1. 11. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 1. 11. Denominator stays. Times 1/3. So if y'all would answer the questions that I asked and not jump ahead, it would be a lot easier.
I ain't see the 1. I saw a 7.
That's an arrow.
Oh, that looks.
Whatever. So now I can multiply these. 11, 6. Now that my answer is improper, I have to put it back as a mixed fraction. 6 goes 1 time. No. Tomorrow. 1 and 5, 6 of a yard. 1 and 5, 6.
I got 1 and 5.
Three and 1/3 of a quart. Finding gallons. We're going from small to big. What do you do? Small to big. Divide. 3 and 1/3 times 1 quart. So even when you're looking right here, I've got my gallons up here. It takes 1, 2, 3, 4. I've only got 1 quart. And I'm trying to go to a gallon. 1 quart is only 1/4 of a gallon. 3 1/3 times 1/4. You can't do that yet. You have to make it an improper fraction.
You gotta do you gotta multiply this and put it in there.
It is 10/3 times 1/4. And it is 10/12.
You can simplify that.
You can. You can.
And you get faster.
So just out of curiosity, do I divide 6 by 5?
No.
No. I have seen people determine to make this a mixed fraction. You only divide when your numerator is bigger, which it is not. You only make it a mixed fraction when your numerator is larger. That's the only time you divide this into that, when your numerator is bigger. So right now, 3 1/2 quarts is 5/6 of a gallon. 3 1/3 quarts, because it takes 4 quarts to make a gallon. So if you divide that and you get 1 1/6, you're telling me I've got a whole gallon already. I don't even have 4 quarts. So can I have a gallon? Thank you, Jeremy. I need a whole extra quart. So, with the first problem, it was already done for you. The second problem, where you have 1/2 of a quart and you're trying to see how many gallons you have. So you're going from a small unit and you're going to a big unit. And when you go from small to big, you divide, which means that I'm having to do a fraction. So you have 1 1/2 quarts. And you're going from quart to a gallon. So 1 quart is 1/4 of a gallon. So if you have 1 gallon, it takes 4 quarts to make a gallon. And if I only have 1 quart, 1 quart is 1/4 of 1 gallon. That's where this came from. So 1 1/2. I can't multiply 1 1/2 times 1/4. So I have to turn 1 1/2 into an improper fraction. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. 3 halves times 1/4. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 4 is 8. So it's 3/8 of a gallon. All you had to do was multiply it.
Oh, that's clear that. Wait.
Riley, are there any extra problems that flying around? You got a homework night. I've got problems. 4 2/3. Did you already write on that one when I took it? Oh wait, you know your name's on it. I'm gonna put it right there. 4 2/3 of a foot, and you're going to inches. 4 2/3 times 1 foot, and you are going to inches. So, and we're going from big to small. So 1 foot, and you're going to inches. Well, 1 inch. Big. Wait. Let me backtrack there. I'm going from big to small. Multiplying. This one has them all mixed up. So big to small. Multiply. 12 inches. So this one, you're multiplying by 12. So, because we did both. So it should be 4 2/3 times 12 inches because we're going from a big unit to a small unit. Because we're going from a big unit to a small unit, which means we're multiplying. We are not dividing. We did both in our practice. You have to be able to figure out which one you're doing. Or if you're dividing, like this one, is when you do a fraction. We're not dividing. We're multiplying, so we're doing it by a whole number. So 12 times 4 is 48. 12 times 2 is 24 over 3. So we have 48. 24 divided by 3. 3 goes into 24 8 times. And this, since you've got 0, do not turn it into a fraction. It's just 8. So 48 plus 8 is 56. It's a total of 56 inches. I went from big feet to inches small. You multiply. 9.5 pints to quarts. Are we going big to small or small to big?
Small to big.
Small to big. So we are dividing, which means that we are going to have a fraction in there because we are dividing. So 9 1/2 times 1 pint. 9.5. How many pints make a quart? 2 pints make 1 quart. This is a pint. This is a pint. So if I only have 1 pint,
1/2.
what fraction of the quart do I get when I only have 1 pint? 1/2 of the quart is what I have. Can I multiply this like I have it? No, I cannot. A mixed fraction by a fraction, I cannot do it. I can multiply this, a whole number, but I cannot multiply a fraction to a mixed fraction. I have to make this improper. Not, remember we did the practice and you were supposed to be taking notes and everything? 2 times 9 is 18 plus 1 is 19. 2 times 1 over D. Multiply across. 19 fourths. Now I need to make this a mixed fraction. 4 goes into 19.
4 times
4 times. 4 times 4 is 16.
3.
So you get 4 and 3/4.
This was a few questions I had.
Three and 3/5 of an hour going to minutes. Which one's bigger, an hour or a minute?
An hour.
An hour. So you're going big to small and multiply. So 3 and 3/5 times 1 hour, which is 60
minutes.
3 and 3/5 times 60 minutes. 60 times 3, 180. 60 times 3, 180 over 5. So I have 180. 5 into 180. 5. 3 times. Because 3 times 5 is 15. That's 3. Bring down my other 0. 5 into 36. So this is 36. 180 plus 36. You can't forget about that whole number you already had. Yeah, oopsies will make it be a wrongsie. 216 minutes. 216 minutes. Because you've got 3 hours. 3 hours. That's more than just 36 minutes.
An hour is more than
1 hour is 60 minutes. So you can't just have 36 minutes. Right? Reasonable answer. Think about, okay, what should I have? 3 hours? You should at least have 180. Think about your reasonable answer about what you should have. 3 2/3 of a foot. Now you should be writing down a whole bunch of work and not just one thing. Because when you get home, you're not having hardly anything written down, and then you're not remembering how to do it. 3 2/3 of a foot going to yards. Which one's bigger? A yard. So small to big, divide. So my unit should be a fraction. 3 2/3 times 1 foot. So I'm going to a yard, which is made up of 3 feet. I only have 1 foot. If I have 1 foot is how much of a yard?
1/3.
1/3 of a yard. So it's 3 2/3 times 1/3. It's not times 3. I don't have a whole yard. I've only got 1 foot, which is 1/3 of a yard. I cannot multiply these two together. I have to make this an improper fraction. 3 times 3 is 9. Plus 2 is 11. Parker, are you writing any of this down? Are you writing any of this down? Times 1/3. 11 times 1 is 11. 3 times 3 is 9. Yes, 11 ninths. It's improper. 9 into 11. 9 goes into 11 one time. 1 times 9 is 9. So your answer is 1 2/9. There was no third. 1 2/9 of a yard. Your main thing that you really need to be aware of is which unit is bigger. Are you multiplying or dividing? If you're dividing, your unit is a fraction. If you're multiplying, your unit is a whole number. And some of y'all are doing like feet to inches and you're writing a 3 in there. You need to be aware. Don't just throw numbers in there because your answer is going to be wrong.
You write the number that with feet or inches or meter areas here.
I'm not quite sure what your question was, but like whatever I'm going to, if I'm going to feet to inches, it's how many inches are in a feet? 12. I wouldn't write 3. Are there 3 inches in a foot? Are there 3 inches in a foot? No, there are 12 inches in a foot.
And then do the what you taught us, and then 1 foot is 4 inches.
So do what I taught you. Would that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, do what your teacher taught you. That would be the best way to make a good grade on something. Do what your teacher taught you. Don't make stuff up. Do what your teacher taught you. Don't make stuff up. So, on the back, three dump trucks are carrying topsoil to a construction site. Truck A carries 3,545 pounds. Truck B carries 1,758 pounds. Truck C carries 3,697 pounds. How many tons of topsoil are the three trucks carrying all together? So, here, we got truck A, truck B, truck C. So truck A is 3,545 pounds. Truck B is 1,758 pounds. Truck C is 3,697 pounds. They want to know how many tons. Are those in the same units? No. So this is a two-step problem. So what would be the easiest thing to do first?
Add all the numbers together.
Add all the numbers together. First, the total number of pounds. Okay. So, if we have, whenever you're adding your numbers, don't worry about putting the commas in there because they end up being in the way. So, whenever I'm adding things, I try to find groups. So, 5 plus 8 is 13 plus 7 is 20. So, this is 6, this is 11, this is 20. This is 7, this is 14, this is 20. This is 5, this is 6, this is 9. So it's 9,000 pounds. They want to know how many tons. Now, do you know any information about pounds and tons?
No.
Yes.
Isn't it like
There are 2,000 pounds in a ton. So, if there are 2,000 pounds in 1 ton, are we going from big to small or small to big? We're going from small to big. Now this morning some of my students did it in a way that they ended up with like 18 million tons. So, and that's fine because they got kind of in a little groove the way that they were solving it. So, again, using your reasonable answers, which is how you should really problem solve. If you look at it, if you look at your numbers, if I have 3,545, about how many tons do you have here?
4,000.
About how many tons do you have here?
1. 4.
You have about
2.
2 tons. You have about 2 tons. Because you got close to 4,000 pounds. So you should have about 2 tons. About how many tons do you have here?
3.
You have about 1 ton. You got almost 2,000 pounds. So we're up to 3. About how many tons do you have here? 2. So your number should be somewhere around 5 tons. Somewhere around 5 tons. Not 18 million tons. Or whatever number they had. So, if we have 9,000 pounds and we're trying to convert that to tons.
You got to divide.
So 9,000 times 1 pound.
It's small to divide.
We're going from small to big. So you divide, not multiply. That was their problem. They multiplied. So it's 9,000 times 1 2,000. 1 pound is 1/2,000 of a ton. It takes 2,000 pounds to make a ton. If they only have 1 pound, it's 1 out of the 2,000 it takes.
So 5 of those would be 10,000.
So 9,000 over 2,000. So, and it's not impossible, but it is improper. He said improper, I said, is it impossible? I was like, no, it's not. So, but it's not hard. I'm going to show you. Some of you are going to be like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. When I show you something, some of you, like I said before, I'll show you something, and you'll take it and run with it. And some of you are going to take it and start doing it wrong all the time. Okay, and it's an old school trick that I was taught when I was in middle school, I think. And when my teacher taught it to me, I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you for showing me this. Okay. When you have numbers that are powers of 10, and I'm guessing that you were taught this in 4th grade because when I showed it, they went, oh, yeah! Okay. When you have 9,000 being divided by 2,000, isn't it the same thing as 9 being divided by 2?
Yes!
So you can get rid of those zeros. Now, because it's the same thing, you can take those zeros off.
And then add them back.
You don't
When you're done dividing,
you don't have to. So it's the same thing. Now I know that some people be like, but you said I could take the zeros off, and then you're gonna start taking them off. But so like if I had, and now I've got people that are talking and they're not listening to me, and that's gonna be a real bump. If I had 490 divided by 2, can I take that 0 off?
Yes.
Is there a 0 down here?
No.
No, then you can't. If I have this, then I can. When you have to have equal amount of zeros.
We gotta divide them.
They have to be in the same spot. Then you have to have a 0 here and a 0 here.
What if you have 2 up top and only 1 left?
Then you can only do 1 and 1. What you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. Take that thing off around your neck. Okay, so what if I have this?
No.
Can I take it from the middle?
No.
No, you cannot. It's only when they're on the back. Only when they're in the back. They cannot take it from the middle because 49 is not the same as 409. You can't.
There's a whole nother thing.
You would have to leave it 409.
Oh.
Okay? So, but 9,000 is the same. 9,000 divided by 2,000 is the same as 9 divided by 2. So you can take those zeros off the back. But it's the same, you take the same amount. Since I took 3 off the top, I have to have 3 on the bottom. If I had 3 on the top and 2 on the bottom, if it were this, Jeremy asked me this, if I take 2, I can only do 2.
90 has to be
I would have to do 90 divided by 2. Okay? Whatever I do here, I can do there. It has to be equal. You see what I'm saying? Okay. So, smart board. I swear, sometimes it cooperates, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so 9 divided by 2, that's just a whole lot easier than this. So 2 goes into 9, 4 times 8, 1. So 4 and 1/2 times. Yay! That's why you make y'all like, yay, at the same time.
But don't we have to add the zero to that?
No, because then it would be 4,000 tons.
Oh my goodness.
And it's 2,000 goes into 9,000 4 times. You don't need the zeros.
That's so easy.
Because how many times is 2,000 going to 9,000? 2,000, look, 2,000 times 4 is 8,000. It's the same thing, just making it easier to look at. Melissa buys 3 3/4 gallons of iced tea. Danita buys 7 quarts. You have to be really careful with these problems because some of y'all don't really read it. It doesn't say that she buys 7 quarts. It says
More.
7 quarts more than Melissa. How much tea do they buy altogether? Express your answer in quarts. So, what do you think you should do to be able to answer this question? What would you do, Milena?
You would have to add the 7 quarts plus the 3 3/4 gallons.
So, can I add things that are in 2 totally different units? What should I do, Marco? But I don't even know what you're really saying.
Jeremy's about to die.
Jeremy, what should you do? I need to turn it into quarts. My answer needs to be in quarts, so I need to turn my gallons into quarts. So that then I can figure out how many Danita actually has. So this is like a 3-part problem. I need to do a conversion, I need to add this, and then I have to add again. This is a 3-part problem. So 3 3/4 gallons is equal to some kind of quart. So let's see. 3 3/4 times, let me write that. I've got so much red going on. Let me erase all this.
No, bring it.
3 3/4 times 1 gallon. Well, I know this is going to get really cluttered. I needed to clear it off. Times 1 gallon. 3 3/4 times. I'm going from gallons to quarts. Big to small multiplied by not 7. 4. Because I'm going from gallons to quarts. I'm going from big gallons to little quarts. How many quarts make a gallon? 4. Mila, hi. If you look at the gallon right there, it's got 4 Q's in it. So 3 3/4 times 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 3 is 12 over 4. Well, that's improper, so I can just go ahead and do 12 plus 3 equals 15 quarts.
That's not the answer.
No, this just tells me Melissa.
You need to know the meter.
I need to find out Danita. How can I find out Danita?
Multiply that by 7.
Why multiply? She just bought 7 quarts more. It doesn't say 7 times as many.
15 plus.
15 plus 7. So Danita is 15 plus 7 equals 22 quarts. How much tea do they buy all together? 22 plus 15. 37 quarts.
Done.
Where's your paper? It shouldn't even be up. Marvin buys a hose that is 27 3/4 feet long. He already owns a hose at home that is 2/3 the length of the new hose. How many total yards does Marvin have now? Again, a multi-step problem. So he buys a hose that is 27 3/4 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and change it to yards already. He already owns a hose that at home that is 2/3 the length. What are we gonna do?
You have to change 27 into a fraction, and then you multiply it by two thirds, and then you add what you got for multiplying it with 27 and 3. And then you get how many you have with 3, and then you have to convert it into get your answer. What?
So this is what he buys. It's 108 times 4. It's 108 fourths feet long. This is what he bought. He already owns a hose at home that is 2/3 the length of the new hose. So when it's 2/3 the length, oh. You know what? I'm gonna do it this way. 1, 3, 3. I know what time it is. Thank you. Oh, that. So I've got 36 over 2, 18.
What?
Going down.
You just fight it, man.
Is that a decimal fraction?
Have you ever seen me do a decimal fraction at the same time? Oops. So when you had the 27 and the 3/4, I did the 27 times 4, and that was actually the 108, but I forgot to add the 3.
I told you.
I couldn't hear you because when I have a whole bunch of other people talking at me, I couldn't hear it. So 111 over 4. I couldn't hear it. My apologies. With 2/3. It just didn't look right. Now I see why. So we're going to take 2/3 of this length. So, we're going to take 1, go down here, make this a 2. I'm going to try to make this as small as possible because it's such a big, ugly number. And 3 actually can go into 111. It can. There are divisibility rules. So sometimes if you're looking at a number like this and you're trying to figure out whether or not it can go in there, one of the rules about 3 is if you add the numbers up, if the sum is something that 3 can go into. So if I add up 1, 1, and 1, the sum is 3. So if you add those up, the sum is 3. 3 can go into it. So if I add them up and the sum is 6, 3 can go into it. If I add it up, the sum is 9 or 12 or 15 or whatever I add them up, if the sum is something that 3 can go into, then 3 can go into that total number. Because like 111 isn't something that you normally divide into. So it's an ugly number. So if I look at that, knowing my divisibility rules, I go, oh, 1, 1, and 1, I get a sum of 3. So off to the side, I'm going to go 3 into 111. 3 can't go into 1, but 3 can go into an 11. 3 times, that's a 9. I'm left with 2. Bring that down. Oops, golly. 21, 7. So it goes in 37 times. That's a weird number. So that's a 1, and that's a 37. So it's a whole lot better to do the simplifying in the problem than it is to have those huge numbers. So then I have 37 over 2. Come on, Trey. Are you going to write any of this down? Alton, are you going to write any of this down? That lovely blank paper that you have. So 37 over 2, now that's improper,
Over.
2 into 37. 2 can go into 3 one time.
I thought you said
2 into 17 8 times. So the one that he originally had is this. The one that he bought was this. The one that he already owns that was 2/3 the length is 18 and 1/2 feet. So it should be shorter. It's 2/3 the length. How many total yards are opposed? So I'm going to go ahead and add them together and get my total feet and then do a conversion. So 27, oops, my brain, I need to go home and rest it. 24, oh my, 27 and 3/4 plus, and 1/2, common denominator, 27 3/4 plus 18 and 2/4. Add those and extend this page. It's getting a little bit short here. So 27 plus 18 is 45. 2 plus 3 is 5. 5/4. 46 and 1/4 total feet. Yep. I'm checking it this time. I'm looking at it. But do they want it in feet?
No.
They want it in yards. Well, it's taking. I'm writing pretty big. I want to make sure that everyone can see it. So you guys have paper. I don't. I just have a smartphone. So I've got to take 46 and 1/4 feet, and I have to convert it into yards. So am I going big to small or small to big?
Small to big.
You're not doing anything but picking at your fingers. I'm going from small to big. Small to big, divide. Which means that my unit is going to be written as a fraction. So 46 and 1/4 times 1 foot. 46 and 1/4 times 1 foot in relation to a yard.
Isn't that 12? No.
1/3. 3 feet make 1 yard. So,
You said you
do what?
I said what?
Because I can't do this. So 46 times 4. So I'm going to try my divisibility rules and see if I can make that smaller. That is so ugly. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 plus 5 is 14. No, I cannot make that smaller by 3. So, that's 185 twelfths. 12 into 185. 12 can't go into 1, but 12 can go into 18. 1 time. 1 times 12 is 12. 18 minus 12 is 6. Yes. Bring down my 5. How many times can 12 go into 65?
4. 4 because 5 doesn't it make it go to 60?
60. 65 minus 60.
Oh! Sorry, Jeremy.
So it is 15 and 5/12 yards.
15.
Yes, sir.